Welcome to Vocabulary Acquisition through Semantic Mapping. My name is Erica Youngling, and I am an educator who is passionate about making learning accessible for all students. Whether your students have average IQs, or have learning challenges due to disabilities or learning a second language, semantic mapping is a well-researched strategy for learning and remembering academic vocabulary. We start today with Scarborough's reading rope, which shows the many strands and skills required for skillful reading. Students must be proficient in the components of word recognition and language comprehension. Today we're going to focus our attention on the vocabulary strand of the higher language skills. Vocabulary is key to reading comprehension. It combines with background knowledge, language structures, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge to create increasingly strategic readers. At the same time, word recognition skills such as phonological awareness, decoding, and sight word mapping become more efficient and automatic. Throughout the process, the strand of rope becomes intertwined, stronger, and more efficient, resulting in accurate, fluent readers who are strong comprehenders. Without the vocabulary strand, readers would not understand what they are reading because they would not know what most of the words mean. As children learn to read more advanced texts, they need to learn the meaning of new words that are not in their oral vocabulary. Scarborough specifies that vocabulary knowledge needs to be broad and deep and precise and make connections and links with other words so they can recall the meaning easily and quickly. Work by Stahl and Nagy suggests that vocabulary knowledge accounts for 50 to 60% of the difference in reading comprehension outcomes. Because vocabulary development is directly tied to reading comprehension, students need a strong vocabulary to gain knowledge and understanding through academic texts. Perfetti's quote here tells us that a person must know a word inside and out, know its semantics, phonology, orthography, morphology, and syntax to truly know the word. It is impossible to know all words this way, but teachers have a responsibility to expose our students to a wide range of academic vocabulary for their success. In order to create this high lexical quality for vocabulary that Perfetti outlines, many parts of the brain must work together. The 4-part processing model for word recognition shows this clearly. Readers must connect phonemes with graphemes to read print, but we must remember that full word recognition requires meaning as well. That meaning is connected to context. As you can see in this image based on Siedenberg and McClelland, vocabulary falls in the meaning processor, but requires information and works in conjunction with the phonological processor to process sounds, the orthographic processor to recognize the graphemes, and the context processor, which places the word in context and can make meaning from print. Once the brain orthographically maps a word, this process becomes almost instantaneous. But in order for a vocabulary word to be mapped, it must be known throughout this model. This takes explicit instruction in word learning strategies, decoding, and word analysis. So you may ask, how do we acquire our vocabulary? According to Louisa Moats, each of us has a mental lexicon or dictionary that is continually being updated. The quality of each vocabulary word in this mental dictionary can vary from being extremely well known to just knowing we've heard it before. We acquire the knowledge through reading and listening, incidental exposure, and through explicit instruction in specific words or word learning strategies. Research by Hart and Risley and Baker et al. Confirmed that students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds had smaller vocabularies than their higher income counterparts. Cunningham and Stanovich found that vocabulary in first grade predicted students' reading ability in their junior year of high school. This means there is no time to waste. We must do a better job of building our students' academic vocabulary with depth and breadth. Just expecting students to read and understand words doesn't make sense, and it will not bring about the gains they need to survive the increasingly complex texts that they will encounter in school. We must teach them ways to analyze words for common morphemes, orthographies, and teach them as many words explicitly as we feel is possible. One way we can do so is through semantic mapping. Let's start with the word dance. What comes to mind when you see this word? Is it mapped fully in your mind? I bet you made a lot of connections to this simple word. Maybe you were thinking of ballet and tutus. Maybe you were thinking of halftime shows and hip hop. It's even possible you were thinking of your first middle school dance experience. And you may have pictured something like one of these images in your brain. When we know words, have strong personal experience with them, and make connections, this means we have a strong mental model of the word. That is what it means to know a word phonetically, orthographically, morphologically, syntactically, and semantically. You know this word dance. You can place it in context, and you can picture it. And you make connections to other words, other vocabulary, which strengthens your mental model. These connections can be placed in categories, like this. Schema is the organizational structure in which information about a certain topic is stored in your memory. As you can see here, the word dance brings up lots of different words, and ideas and emotions, which could be different for each one of us. Maybe your experience is with an awkward middle school dance where your heart was broken. Maybe your connection is watching the halftime show at the Super Bowl with loud music and gyrating. Maybe you think of classical ballet, street dance, the Rockettes, Native American powwows, concerts, modern tap, culture, movement. As you can see, words connect to other words and concepts, which can then be organized into categories. This happens naturally in our brains, creating a semantic network. With each hook that the idea can take hold of, our semantic network gets stronger for that word. This process can be made visual and concrete for students with semantic mapping. But first, we have to discuss what vocabulary do we teach? Beck, McCowan, and Kukin have outlined 3 tiers of vocabulary. Tier 1 includes everyday words that we use in our oral vocabulary, like book, go, and dog. They do a nice job of getting the point across, but no one's getting a Pulitzer Prize for using them. Tier 3 words on the top includes words such as isotope, and filibuster, words that are specific to a particular content area. The sweet spot for this type of instruction is Tier 2. These are considered academic vocabulary words that can be used across content areas and really benefit our students' breadth and depth of knowledge. Tier 2 words are not often used in spoken language, but occur frequently in the complex texts that students encounter in school. Words such as frequently, merchant, abstract, and fortune are Tier 2 words. These words encompass the language of school and will build students' vocabulary for comprehension. In order to determine if a word is a Tier 2 word, you can ask yourself these questions. Is the word found in academic texts? Is it used frequently across content areas? Does it have multiple meanings? And will this word help students better describe their experiences or what they have read? As mentioned before, through discussion of Perfetti, really knowing a vocabulary word and orthographically mapping it takes not only knowing its pronunciation and spelling, but its role in use. How do I use this word? What other words go with it? In what situations is it using it appropriate? This depth of knowledge can be accomplished through semantic mapping. So what is a semantic map? The word semantic means related to meaning in language. And therefore, a semantic map is a visual representation of ideas and words connected by meaning. It is a map that shows relationships between words and ideas. And why should I use them? You may ask yourself, isn't writing the definition and using it in a sentence enough? Research says not really. That word could still be abstract and easily forgotten after the Friday test. Because humans remember information when they make connections to it, even students without tons of background knowledge can see relationships and make connections to academic words if we lay the groundwork. Using semantic maps, we can make clear the connections between words and ideas for better recall and create strong semantic networks and strong mental models. We can build knowledge, connect ideas, and have better recall. Though most of the early research on semantic mapping studied university students and high schoolers, more recent studies have found that semantic mapping is just as valuable for young children. Little and Box found that at-risk third graders with little prior background knowledge benefited greatly from semantic mapping activities and gave them an opportunity to quickly add to their schemata, which in turn allowed them to better comprehend their reading assignments. The same could be said for the work of Hadley et al., who investigated the impact of vocabulary intervention on preschoolers and found that semantic mapping, especially using taxonomies, build the semantic networks of young children more than teaching simple words. Zeri and Adami found that the combination of semantic mapping and semantic feature analysis was more effective for EL students than keeping a vocabulary notebook for vocabulary production tasks, but not for vocabulary recognition. The researchers surmise this could have been the result of the limits of the Persian language which they were speaking, and the students' prior knowledge of semantic concepts that connected to the task. In addition, the research of Banner and Abu Ayyash concluded that semantic mapping strategies resulted in statistically significant improvement in vocabulary recall over rote memorization. These 4 students give evidence to the benefit of semantic maps, but more research is needed to specifically address the type of mapping for each age level and the degree to which background knowledge and successful recall are affected. Following the research, teachers can implement this strategy with confidence. Prior to instruction, you need to choose a target word which will build your students' vocabulary in a meaningful way. Once you have chosen your word, you should make sure to know it in a way that we have discussed previously by answering all of these questions. Next, choose the type of semantic map you want to use. One type is the Freyer model, designed by Dorothy Freyer and her colleagues at the University of Wisconsin in 1969. This model is considered useful for teaching vocabulary that describes concepts that students may already know but cannot clearly define. Place the word in the middle and prepare to provide examples and non-examples. Drawings or images can help students to make more connections to the word. A more complex version of the Freyer map could look like this sample from the Reading Rockets website. As you can see, the target word harbor is placed in the middle, and synonyms, antonyms, examples, parts of speech, and suffixes are added to expand students' semantic networks to include many forms of the word and its potential uses. Another type of semantic map is called the thematic concept map, useful for complex concepts and complex vocabulary words. It focuses on building logical connections between words. Here you can visualize the relationship between the categories of rock, which are arranged by hierarchy. All of these models help students create strong mental model of the vocabulary they are learning. You can feel confident in using semantic maps in your lessons, knowing they align with ELA Common Core standards. Once you begin instruction, the procedure for semantic mapping is easy to follow. First, place the target word in the middle of the page and draw a circle around it. Define the word in kid-friendly terms and give examples. If this word came from a text, read it in context. Ask your students to think quietly for a minute about the word and the definition you gave. This will give them time to activate their schemata. Then ask them to think of the words that could describe that word. Think about the purpose or function of the word and to provide any details that they can think of that might have a connection to the target word. Once you have a few ideas, start to write a list of them on the board. Give students a chance to answer all of the questions and get their ideas down. Write the words and connect those to the target word. Keep related concepts together by proximity, or use different colors to denote hierarchy. Students can add images and their own ideas. There is no limit to how many connections you can make. You might find that simple is better with younger students, but with older students, you can let them add on as many as they would like, as long as they can explain why the word is connected to the central target word. This enables them to think creatively and build their own experiences into the map. Now here is a typical graphic organizer to label for the 3 branches of our U.S. government. You can see that each block has a right answer. Students are asked to remember information and place it in the correct box. This graphic organizer is useful for learning the names of the branches and which person or group belongs in each branch. Unfortunately, this does not help students make that most important strong mental model of the word government. It does not make it less abstract. Leaving it here can leave students in the dark, grasping for connections. Start with the word government in the middle of the page. Draw 3 connecting lines and categorize the 3 branches of government. Now ask your students, define what we're talking about. Describe it. Tell the purpose or function. Give information about what we're talking about, government. I gave my students this semantic map on Jamboard and projected it onto the smartboard. I then asked them each to use a Post-it note to make a connection to each of the branches of government. Look at all the connections my students made. Not only did they know the purposes of each branch, they knew the players and many words that connected to each branch, such as bipartisan, filibuster, appointed, terms. With this map, my students said they had a better mental model of the 3 branches of government. Better than just using the graphic organizer from before. Here is another semantic map I made on bubble.com. A very user-friendly website. You put in the target word and make branches off of it. This one used the target word transportation. The yellow-green boxes that branch off from it are the main forms of transportation. And then the branches off of those are all the types of buses or planes or trucks I could think of. Now you may have organized this differently or added words like station, ride, deplane, all aboard. There's really no wrong way to make a semantic map as long as you're making connections. Semantic maps can be simple or complex. You want to make sure that the one you created helps build schemata and strengthens your students' connections to the word for easier recall. And you don't need any materials to build a semantic map. You can use paper and pencil, or you could build one on your whiteboard. You could also use a website to create one. Google Jamboard is free and is an easy way to collaborate online with your students. You can also use bubble.com. And VisuWords has a visual thesaurus, which allows you to type in a word and will create a semantic map for you. As you can see, semantic mapping makes visible the connections between the words we use and read. A solid research-based strategy, semantic mapping can make explicit vocabulary instruction more concrete, creative, and personal, and build strong memories of words we teach. The more connections a student can make among words, the better their recall and comprehension. Thank you.